Well. Had some meetings today. They went a little bit over, but here we are talking about these Cowboys. We only have one topic today, and I'm going to go for maybe an hour. Wednesdays are pretty busy for me, but I had to touch base with the family. We are going to only have one topic, and it is the Calvin Watkins interview on 105.3 The Fan. And when I tell you this interview, when I tell you it's explosive, this interview with Calvin Watkins is explosive. If you haven't heard this yet, you are in for some bombshells. Now, if you've been following me, probably not going to be too much of a bombshell for you, because some of the things that Calvin Watkins is saying, I've been saying this stuff without even talking to people on the inside. I'm just telling you, when you learn how to read, and I don't want to sound like I'm some kind of psychic. No, it's not psychic stuff. All you have to do is look at how people are moving. Look at what people are saying. Look at what people are doing. And when you see all of these things and add them together, you're going to be able to come up with somewhat of the truth. And so we're going to talk about this thing with Micah Parsons. It's like you get tired of talking about this, but you have to report on it. For as many people who want to sweep things under the rug, you can't sweep these things under the rug because they have a huge impact on the team. But again, we only have one topic today. That one topic is going to be the Calvin Watkins interview on 105.3 The Fan. Calvin Watkins is dropping megaton bombs. And, people have been reporting Micah Parsons is going to get, everybody was expecting to wake up today and Micah Parsons was going to be signed. He still may be signed today. He may be signed while we're doing this very video right here. He may be signed right then. I don't think this is a matter of Micah Parsons being signed. That's the part people need to start comprehending. And I don't even understand it in the grand scheme of things. What is the big deal about Micah Parsons getting signed when we know he's going to get signed? The only place where it makes a difference is the fact that as long as we keep waiting and other people get signed before Micah Parsons, then it's just going to be more money for Dallas. Unless Micah Parsons subscribed to what he said. He doesn't see a big difference in $5 or $10 million. He doesn't see a big difference in it. So if Micah Parsons doesn't see a big difference in those kinds of dollars, then it really don't make a big deal whether we sign Micah Parsons today or next week. But I want them to sign Micah Parsons because I want the drama to stop swirling around this team, and this team can put its head down and start doing work. Again, let me get a roll call and then we're going to get right into it. John Jones, what's going on? Good to see you. D-Hawks up in here, what's going on? Hey, D-Hawks, tell you what we're going to do. I think we're going to do Cowboys After Dark. Today we're going to focus on this thing with Micah Parsons, and then we're going to get right back to football. We're going to get right back to our mock drafts. Some of you guys sent me some emails on mock drafts. I want to see those, and I'm going to share those with everybody. Roderick, what's going on? Leandrew Sims, what's up? Ice Cold Cowboy, what's going on? Oak Cliff Rockefeller, what's up? Yeah, Oak Cliff Rockefeller. I'm not surprised. Everybody was acting like it was inevitable, but it's, you know what? It ain't done until it's done. It ain't done until it's done. Yes, sir. Appreciate you, Georgie George. Top Gunner, what's up? LaQueen, what's up? Bleeding Blue, what's up? Yeah, we about to have a really good show. I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, Ice Cold, man. I'm telling you, this thing with Calvin Watkins it's a bombshell. At least to me, when you hear Calvin Watkins express some of the things he expressed, it's some of the same things I've been saying. about Micah Parsons. When you're talking about Micah Parsons, I do not think this is an issue of signing Micah Parsons. We know Micah Parsons is going to get signed. And have the Cowboys cost themselves some money? Maybe. But if you listen to Micah Parsons, he didn't feel like there was a big difference in $10 million or $5 or $10 million, or he didn't have to be the highest paid. So if that's true, the Myles Garrett, the Crosby thing, none of this stuff makes a difference. And we got another one on the horizon, because if the Cincinnati Bengals mess around and sign Trey Hendrickson, which is what they're trying to do, the price for edge rushers is going to go up even more. But again, according to Micah Parsons, none of that stuff right there is probably going to matter, because he's already said he doesn't have to be the highest paid. He's already said it. So we're going to see. And I've been saying this for the longest. I want to see. I want to see how this shakes down. I do. Greg Johnson, Doll Mob, what's going on? All right, guys, let's get right into it, because I gotta. Man, Wednesdays are busy for me, so I want to get right into it. And then I may do the Cowboys After Dark tonight to just talk about this even more. But we're going to get to Calvin Watkins. And Calvin Watkins, if there is an insider, well, I would say that Calvin Watkins is one of those. When you start talking about Calvin Watkins, Jane Slater, the Clarence Hills, I mean, when you start hearing things these guys are saying, you might want to, you could probably call this somewhat of a gospel. But I want you to hear Calvin Watkins. Calvin Watkins is going to reiterate some things that I've been saying, and there are people who don't too much care for me for some of these things that I've been saying about Micah Parsons. I love Micah Parsons. But when it comes to the things that Micah Parsons does off the field, these are the things that bother his players. And I'm telling y'all, the Cowboys, while they don't have a problem with Micah Parsons on the field, people have to understand, it's not just what you do on the field. It's what you do off the field. It's the totality of who you are. It's the totality. And those things can get to people. And y'all remember what I said just a few days ago. Tell me you're a distraction without telling me you're a distraction. For Michael Irvin to even say it's not a distraction. Now, he came back and clarified this. Yeah, it's not a distraction for Micah Parsons because he's the one doing the distracting. But it must be a distraction because other players think it's a distraction. And I told y'all this. Calvin Watkins, Drew Pearson, they're all kind of reiterating this. For you people who don't understand people management, if DeMarcus Lawrence is saying it, if Malik Hooker is saying it, you think they're the only two to think like this? So we really think they're the only two to think like this. We're more naive than I don't know how naive anybody is, but I'm telling you, I guarantee you, they're not the only two. But when you get a player of his magnitude, sometimes people don't want to speak up because they don't want to be looked at as the bad guy. But now, let's get into this thing with Calvin Watkins. It's only about 10 minutes, but it's a bombshell. We'll stop in between and we'll give some commentary and I'll read some comments. And I'm telling you, this is powerful what he's saying. Miss Matrix, what's going on? You know I'm always bringing, Miss Matrix, I got to be bringing the videos and the facts to back up what I'm saying. I'm glad you're in here. Thanks. Hey, you're 1,000% right. Not only should they focus on football, he should focus on football. They all should focus on football. And I think they're all telling Micah Parsons, we just want to focus on football. We don't want any of the podcast stuff. We don't want to be a part of it. We don't want the team involved with it. I think that's what they're saying. But again, I'm going to let you hear Calvin Watkins. And Calvin Watkins caught some smoke for this article that he wrote about the Micah Parsons problem. And so, of course, 105.3 The Fan brings him on, and he gets to bring some clarity. Let's go.
that stirred things up, and it came from the Dallas Morning News, written by our good buddy Calvin Watkins.
Yes, the great Calvin Watkins from the Dallas Morning News, part of, honestly, before the Luka Doncic trade, the biggest trade in the history of Dallas sports, when he and John Machota were traded for each other at The Athletic and the Dallas Morning News.
And our cigar buddy from the Combine. Did you go with a light, a medium, or a harsher cigar there, Calvin?
I go for strong. I need strong. I got a lot of stuff going on in my life. I need something to calm me down.
Hey, it'll give you a nice little high on there. It'll give you a nice little high. So we had Calvin hanging out for us in Indianapolis. Do the Cowboys have a Micah Parsons problem? Take us inside the article, Calvin.
I think the purpose of the article was to raise this question because there are some issues with Parsons. And I think they do have a problem with Micah Parsons that they have to kind of fix, and they're fixable. The biggest problem is it seems as if there are people in the organization and it's in the locker room that might have a problem with Micah doing an in-season podcast. Last year, Malik Hooker mentioned it. And then this year, before DeMarcus Lawrence left for Seattle, or after he left for Seattle, he said, hey, spend less time on Twitter and spend more time on trying to win. I thought it was a little unfair to say that to Micah because DeMarcus Lawrence was also part of the 30-year Super Bowl drought. So there's some issues with Micah's in-season activities that have to be addressed. And when you have two players saying it, I think there's more players that care about it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then the other part is the
Did I not say this? Did I not say this exact thing? If DeMarcus Lawrence is saying it, Malik Hooker is saying it, so we don't think other people are saying it. The fan base is screaming it. When I do these Micah Parsons videos, it is amazing to me how many comments I get about Micah Parsons doing his podcast, doing his social media stuff. What did I tell y'all the other day? I believe that he is drunk with social media. It's like it's a drug to him. He was not like this at Penn State. Micah Parsons was not this player. Now, Shedeur Sanders. Let me give you an example of two different people. Shedeur Sanders has a podcast also, but he's got a podcast in college. Anybody followed Deion Sanders? I have. I'm a huge Deion Sanders fan. And the one thing I know about Deion Sanders, and the one thing I know about his son, they've always been in the media. Deion Sanders, always been in the media. Deion Sanders even had a reality TV show. His sons were in the media. They were a huge part of the show. He goes to JUCO, Jackson State, goes to Colorado, and immediately Shedeur Sanders took on his own personality. He's like his father, not quite like his father, because he doesn't have the talent level of his father, but he's still talented. What has Shedeur been doing the whole time? Shedeur has always been loud, always been vocal, always been braggadocious, confident. We've seen the jewelry. We've seen the watch. We've seen all of this from Shedeur Sanders. And yes, he has a podcast, but here's the difference. He's been doing it. Will anybody be surprised when he do it in the pros? Nobody. Nobody will be surprised. Micah Parsons. Y'all got to tell me, because I don't remember anything about Micah Parsons pre-draft. I don't remember no social media. I don't remember any memorable social media post. I don't remember Micah Parsons being as vocal as he is, I don't remember any of that. Micah Parsons got here. Why did he get here and get like that? It's one thing when you're already like that, but he got here and got like that. And the more vocal he got, I believe he became more abrasive. People felt like he was more of a distraction. And I'm telling you, even Dak Prescott was kind of alluding to some of this stuff last year. What are guys doing when they're not in the building? I know some people say this is the time that we're in. Let me tell you something that Michael Irvin, the caveat Michael Irvin said. Michael Irvin said, I had a television show when I was playing. Well, nobody cared about that. It was just local stuff. But nevertheless, he had a television show. But you know what he pointed out is the difference? They were winning Super Bowls. They were winning Super Bowls. Michael Irvin wasn't on his show giving detailed analysis of the NFL. Michael Irvin wasn't on the show giving his top 5 running backs, leaving out Emmitt Smith. He wasn't on his show talking about other teams as much as he was talking about his own team, but never in a negative light. Never in a way to where it could be perceived as anything else. There's a difference. There's a difference. And I think the thing that is really taking people aback on this thing with Micah Parsons, I think what's taking them aback is all of this comes with Dallas. It wasn't pre-Dallas. If Micah Parsons had a podcast at Penn State, would anybody be surprised he had a podcast in Dallas? No. Nobody would be surprised. If Micah Parsons was like Shedeur Sanders at Penn State, very vocal, always posting on social media, out there in the limelight, out there in the party scenes and all of those things, would any of this be surprising anybody? No. I think it's the content. And I don't even know, I don't believe people are as perturbed by the podcast as they are perturbed by the content on the podcast. I think that's where they are. You got to think about this. You're a team getting ready to play the Cowboys. And Micah Parsons is giving all of his analysis. I don't know about you, and people can say anything they want to. Man, people don't get an extra incentive to play, and, you can talk all the noise you want to, and that doesn't make a person play a different way. Shh, you ain't never played sports. You've never played sports. You can tell me anything you want to, but when there is a loudmouth person on the opposite team, and then they put that as bulletin board material, keep on thinking it don't make people play different. It make people think different. That's the issue. It makes them think different. And the way they're thinking is, I can't wait to rub it in your face. That's what they're thinking. And they're looking for opportunities. And man, when people do not understand, your mind sometimes can make you do things that you didn't even think you were capable of physically. And when you get folk who are like that, I'm telling you, it'll make you go into a whole nother mode. This is why Michael Jordan looked for this stuff. How did he get motivated? Michael Jordan looked for little stuff. Looked for it. Any little thing somebody would say, he looked for it. He's already great. He wants to be even greater. But again, I'm telling us, you don't have to hear Calvin say this if you're just paying attention. Because I know myself, I would struggle being on a team with certain types of people, not Micah Parsons in particular, but certain types of people in particular. There are people who struggle with those things. And again, I said it the other day before I even heard Calvin Watkins. Tell me it's a distraction without telling me it's a distraction. Because we keep talking about it. And we're not talking about it just because we want to talk about it. We're talking about it because it's actually an issue. It's actually an issue. It is. It's an issue, and everyone knows it. And everyone knows it. And everyone's trying to choose sides. How about we not choose sides? Do we know that 2 things can be true? 3 things can even be true. Heck, 4 things can be true. Do we love Micah Parsons? Yes. Do we want Micah Parsons re-signed? Yes. Is Micah Parsons a great player? Yes. Is Micah Parsons somewhat of a distraction? Yes. All 4 of them can be true. All 4 of them can be true. I mean, there's no other way to slice it. All 4 of them can be true. We don't have to say Micah Parsons is a distraction, and so that means we don't like him. Got people that be distracting all the time, we still love him and like him. Those things can be true. We don't have to pick sides per se. DeMarcus Lawrence. DeMarcus Lawrence, I think, he's getting somewhat what he deserves because he came out and took a shot at the Cowboys. But I think the shot that people are taking at DeMarcus Lawrence, I don't think he was talking about the players. We have to understand DeMarcus Lawrence has been here long enough to see how Jerry Jones operates. I don't think DeMarcus Lawrence was talking about the players when he was saying I was not going to win a Super Bowl there. This dude was here in 2023 when Jerry Jones let the team literally play without linebackers. It's pretty hard to win in this league without linebackers and having safeties at linebackers. It's pretty hard to do. And up until this season, what have we been complaining about? A lack of work in free agency. I don't think DeMarcus Lawrence is talking about the players in the team. I think he's talking about the front office. I think he's talking about the front office. Micah Parsons takes offense to that. I don't think he's talking about Micah Parsons. But since Micah Parsons wanted to say something, he took an opportunity. And he let his feelings be known about Micah Parsons. Y'all ever heard that old saying, first dog bark? Sometimes when people say something, there's nothing to say. The only thing for Micah Parsons and this team to do is that if D-Law say you're not going to win a Super Bowl over there, prove him wrong. That's all you have to do is prove him wrong. Because only history is going to prove who's right. It doesn't matter what any of us say. It doesn't matter what Micah Parsons says. It doesn't matter what the media says. History will prove it. And DeMarcus Lawrence, again, I don't think he was talking about even the team. I don't think he was taking a shot at his team. He's taking a shot at the front office, which many people who were criticizing DeMarcus Lawrence have made the same criticism. I can tell you right now, as long as I've been doing this channel, I've seen many of us in the comments saying, we're never winning a Super Bowl under Jerry Jones. How many has said it? How many has said that in the comments? This isn't a Dak Prescott issue. Dak Prescott's only been here 9 seasons, about to be 10. What about the other 21? This isn't a Tony Romo issue. And no, this isn't a DeMarcus Lawrence issue. This isn't a Micah Parsons issue. The common denominator in what DeMarcus Lawrence is talking about is none other than Jerry Jones. But Micah Parsons took offense to it, and I think that's what happened. And that's why some of this stuff is getting blown out of proportion. But again, we got to listen to what the man is saying, even though some of what he's saying is crazy. He said I was not going to win a Super Bowl there. Well, he was a part of the problem. Whatever the problem was, he was a part of it. But at the same time, let's not even put all the onus on the players. It's been personnel issues. And this is why we're so excited this free agency, because the Cowboys are finally doing some personnel things. And so when it comes to Micah Parsons, The issue with Micah Parsons is people are just saying. No one's saying he's a bad player. No one's saying they don't want him. I think they're just saying something simple that no one likes. We don't like the podcast stuff, dude. We don't. And people all just tell him we don't like it because we don't like it. You take inadvertent shots. We feel like we can't trust you with some of the things you say about the owner. They ought to say something about it. And they ought to be saying something to him about it. The question is, will he listen? Will he take the criticism and make a consideration? Okay, my teammates are speaking. I'm on a football team. Maybe I ought to rethink what I'm doing with my podcast. Maybe there's a way I can do it differently in season. And this is all he's saying. And I don't think people like some of the stuff he says on social media. I don't think people like that stuff. And some of us, we like it because Micah Parsons, he talks like a fan of the team, sometimes more than a player. A player on the team ought to have a little bit more insight, just like people were giving Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb just giving them all kinds of business, talking about, I wish Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb would speak up like Micah Parsons. How you know they're not speaking up more than Micah Parsons? Oh, I get it, because they're not on social media. Because they're not on social media appeasing the feelings of people who are saying they're not doing something when they're actually doing something, because now we found out that CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott actually wanted Cooper Kupp and made a plea to Cooper Kupp to come to the Cowboys. But it's amazing that they don't have to go on social media. Do we not understand? It's still true even if we don't post it on social media. It's still true. We don't have to appease the masses. And I think this is some of the type of stuff that even the team doesn't like about Micah Parsons. But let's listen to the next thing that Watkins says.
Voluntary workouts, like they get 90% attendance. You know, you have two players saying it. I think there's more players that care about it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then the other part is the voluntary workouts, like they get 90% attendance. You know, 90% plus. And Micah Parsons is not among that 90%. Now, yes, it is voluntary. And who wants to work when it's voluntary? However, if you want to say you're a leader of this team, then you take your behind to the star and you work out. Dak Prescott was in the contract talks, and he showed up. CeeDee Lamb showed up. You know, not last year, obviously, because he held out. But before that, he showed up. And I'm sure he'll show up in a couple of weeks. So Zach Martin showed up, you know, unless it's a contract issue. So you want to be a leader, you have to show up to these things. And I think
Now, notice what he said about voluntary. Now, I'm sorry. Sometimes we just got to be smart. So we're having voluntary workouts. So we think that means we're not supposed to come to them. No, that's a nice way of saying, yeah, we expect you to be here voluntarily. I've heard Shannon Sharp talk about this. He said it's voluntary. No one should get mad about it. Well, maybe if you're not trying to say you're a leader on the team. If you're not trying to proclaim you're a leader on the team and you don't come to voluntary workouts, I'm not tripping. I mean, I may trip a little bit, but I'm not going to trip as much as if you're saying, hey, you're saying that you want to be a leader on this team, a leader on the defense, leader, but you're not doing leader things. Y'all remember what Darren Woodson said? 2 weeks after the season, who does he see at the Star? 4. Darren Woodson said, voluntary workouts, get your butt there. Get your butt there. When you're talking about elite championship teams, they don't give a doggone about no, they don't care about no voluntary. Voluntary means it's required. That's what it means to the leaders of the team. The leaders say, no, we're here. We're here. You better believe we're going to volunteer because we're the leaders. The leaders volunteer. You don't get to say you want to be a leader, but you don't volunteer. You don't volunteer. And we wonder why they were talking about we finally got the defense in week 12. You want to know why Mike Zimmer was frustrated? There was no urgency. There was no urgency to learn the defense. And there was no urgency by the so-called wannabe leader of the defense. Matt Eberflus, they're going to get a 2-week head start. So what's going to happen? So what's going to happen if Micah Parsons doesn't have a contract? Is he not going to show up again? Did you notice what Calvin Watkins said? Dak was working on his contract. He showed up. This is why Dak Prescott is the unchallenged, unequivocal leader on this team. Calvin Watkins is saying something. And I've been saying the same thing. Leaders do leader things. And when I hear people talking like, oh, that stuff don't matter, then I know you're not the type of person that want to lead. You're not, you may be the type of person that want to lead, but you're the type of person that can't lead. Nah, bro, you don't get to miss voluntary workouts and then all of a sudden come up in here trying to say you doing this and you leading it. No, you don't get to do that, bro. No, we got this. We actually got this down more than you do because you were not here. Calvin Watkins is saying some things. Some stuff that people don't like, and I don't understand why people don't like it, because this is the exact type of stuff that Darren Woodson himself was saying, that this stuff needs to be improved on this team. Who's committed? Who's committed other than 4? And we wonder why we will give all the criticism to Dak Prescott, when in reality, it's not his failure. The failure is he's the only one showing up in some of these things, and no one else is doing anything. They're waiting on him to do it all. No, we need some of the leaders on the team, like in the 90s. You think Troy Aikman was the only one that did it? Do you think Michael Irvin was the only one that did it? Emmitt Smith, the only one that did it? No, they were all doing it. They all had each other's back. They were all committed to one common goal, and that was beating the snot out of every team in the league and winning the Super Bowl. And all too often on this team, it's like it's almost every man for himself. And when you got a leader that's like that, again, let me ask you some simple leader questions, and then I'm going to go to the super chat. Let me give you some simple leader questions. Someone says, well, it's voluntary workouts, so why would you get mad at somebody about not showing up to voluntary workouts? So you're supposed to be the leader, right? So if we're going to let the leader lead, and I called up the leader and say, hey, leader, hey, G, you the leader. You're the self-proclaimed leader of the defense. Hey, G, you going to voluntary workouts? Man, please. It's voluntary. What am I going to voluntary workouts for? Man, nah, I'm going to do my own thing, man. I got my own workout regimen, blah, blah, blah. I got my own workout regimen, man. Hey, man, I'm only coming to I'm only coming to the mandatory stuff. Anything voluntary, I'm not coming. Okay, well, I'm not coming either. Let me call up my homeboy. Hey, man, I'm not going to voluntary workouts. Micah Parsons is not showing up. I'm not going either. What if the chain reaction is everyone calls everyone and says, hey, Micah Parsons says he's not coming to voluntary workouts. I'm not coming either. The offense calls Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott said he's not coming to voluntary workouts. They don't come to voluntary workouts. So, again, tell me who we're going to have as voluntary workouts? Come on, man. We got to be smarter than this. We know exactly what voluntary workouts mean. We know what it means. Yeah, volunteer, that's what it means. That's what it means. That's why people get bent out of shape when people don't come. Yeah, that's exactly what it means. I'm just telling you. Leadership is something that a lot of people don't understand, and that's why many people can't do it. Leaders are willing to do things that other people won't do. That's what leaders do. They do things that other people won't do. They are the ones who influence people to do so many things. They do. JL, appreciate that super chat. Whoa, JL, you better stop this. You better stop it. People get mad at you for telling this type of truth. One problem I have with Parsons is he does not show up in big games. JL, you preaching to the choir, my brother. I've said it before. Chanel even gave us another stat that's astounding. 1 sack in 4 playoff games. I'm just telling us. He said when we played the 49ers in the playoffs 2 times, how many big plays did Micah have? You speaking facts. Hey, JL, isn't it amazing? People say Dak Prescott pad stats. People say Dak Prescott don't play up in the don't show up in the big games. People say Dak Prescott can't beat good teams. People say that those 12-win seasons, 3 seasons in a row, they're absolutely nothing because look at the teams that he played. JL, isn't it strange? Isn't it strange they'll give Micah Parsons credit for the same games that they discredited Dak Prescott for? Isn't that strange, JL? So Dak Prescott is padding stats, but Micah Parsons isn't padding stats against the Carolina Panthers. Straight up trash team this year. So that's not padding stats. Okay. Everyone else gets to get credit off the 12-win seasons. Everyone else gets to get credit. Cooper Rush, he's a mythical unicorn. He wins 4 of the 12 games we won in one of those seasons. Cooper Rush wins 12 of those games. Cooper Rush is a mythical unicorn. Micah Parsons, 12 sacks per season, 4 seasons in a row. Not one playoff win. He gets to get credit in those games. Mike McCarthy got to get credit. 3 12-win seasons in a row. Isn't it strange how everybody gets to get credit, JL? Everybody gets credit for the 12-win seasons, except for the man that when he's not playing, y'all want to know the seasons the Cowboys didn't make the playoffs under Mike McCarthy? The seasons that Dak Prescott was hurt? Strange, isn't it? Strange, isn't it, that Micah Parsons, when he was playing with Cooper Rush, saying that they were about to make a magical unicorn playoff run, it's amazing that Micah Parsons was so upset in that Cincinnati game because he wanted to propel them to the playoffs without Dak Prescott, it seems. Strange, isn't it? Everybody gets credit for everything but Dak Prescott. It's crazy to me. It's crazy. Fred Allen, appreciate that $5 super chat. Fred Allen, I don't think Micah is the problem. Now, I like what you said. The problem. No, he's not the problem. He's not the problem. I believe what the team is screaming, or at least some people on the team are screaming, he's a problem. There's a difference in being the problem and a problem. I can be a problem without being the problem. I can be a distraction to whatever degree, and that be a problem, but it may not be the problem of why we're losing games. But understand this. When you are a problem and when you are a distraction, you better believe that your play is even more under a microscope. It's even more under a microscope. And even if those two things may not even be related in the eyes of some, there are some who say those things are related. Because if that person was totally focused on football, they could really be making some game-changing plays. Now, he's not causing the team to lose games. I don't believe he's causing them to lose games. And I don't think everyone hates him. And that's the part, Fred, let's get some clarity on. See, People feel some type of way when you say something about what they do. It don't mean you hate someone because you don't like something they do. You get somebody that, again, they eat potato chips and they crunch on potato chips and they're distracting you. Well, you don't want them out of your life because they're eating potato chips and getting on your nerves and making your toes curl because of the sounds in your ears. No, but you do want them. Hey, could you eat them chips a little bit quieter? Could you close your mouth when you're eating those chips? How about we don't eat meat chips today? But again, I don't think people are saying he's the problem. I think they're saying he's a problem, and they just don't like some of the things that he's doing. Appreciate that super chat again. Fred Allen, you ask another great question. How many other defensive players have shown up in big games? I'll wait for the answer. Now again, Micah Parsons, and I said this, Fred, when it comes to D-Law and Micah Parsons, I'm not taking sides. They both were the problem. Fred, they were both the problem. And this is the point that Michael Irvin made in some respects, because he's saying, you get 100 and you get 100 and you get 100. How can any of them show up when they're playing hero ball? They're not on the same page. They're not playing together. They're not playing for a common goal. Do you remember? They were saying that this year. There are some people on this team that want to play hero ball. None of them are playing together. And when teams aren't playing together, how does anybody really rise to the occasion? Fred, I've said this and I'll say it again. When you put an absolute dominant player on a good team, that's when he dominates. You put a dominant player on an okay team, or you put a dominant player on a team that hasn't gelled, he gonna still do his thing. The problem is the team isn't going to win. Prime example. Notice how Michael Jordan's career changed when he got Scottie Pippen. We already knew when Mike hit the league, we were like, this dude him. Everyone in the league, Larry Bird called him Jesus with sneakers. Everybody knew Jordan was him. But he wasn't winning. He wasn't winning championships. Wasn't winning playoff games. Jordan was not winning, but he was dominant. What happened when he got on a team? What happened when he got on a team? He could lead a team that complemented what he did, a team that got behind him, a team that worked together, a team that got the right coaching. What happened? Michael Jordan took off. And Michael Jordan was unstoppable on good teams. He was unstoppable. That's what happens. And that's why I say for the Cowboys, Michael Irvin, even though he said he's taking Micah Parsons' side. Now, the reason why he's taking Micah Parsons' side is because Micah Parsons is more talented than DeMarcus Lawrence. But again, DeMarcus Lawrence was better in the run than Micah Parsons. And if those two would have worked together and tried to complement each other, how much better could the team have been? If those two were on the same page and pushing the team in the same direction, and there was no division and no friction on the defense, how much better is the defense playing together? Chemistry matters. Chemistry matters in relationships. 2 are better than 1. 3 are better than 2. 4 are better than 3. 5 are better than 4. This is why you have a team. Football is the ultimate team sport. And it is the one sport you don't want somebody out there hot dogging. I remember when I played, one of the things the coaches would make you run laps for is hot dogging. Cause a penalty, and one of the worst ones they would get you for was the unsportsmanlike penalties. The penalties where you would do something that would cost the team 15 yards and take them out of field goal, or take us out of field goal, take them out of a touchdown where we were right there on the goal line. You took us out. You would get destroyed for those because those were selfish plays. When you got a team where everyone's playing for themselves, you're not winning. You may win some games. You won't win the games. You won't win the big games. You playing teams that are playing together as a team, and we got people out here playing for their own notoriety or playing for whatever they're playing for. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And again, Calvin Watkins is saying something that some people are trying to downplay. I don't think you can downplay this. I don't think you can downplay this because I think it is a legitimate conversation that is going on not only inside the building with the players, and let's just call that the locker room. It seems to be a legitimate conversation that they're having in the front office. Whether we accept it or not, it's a legitimate conversation they're having in the front office. 808, he said he ain't going to win a Super Bowl in Dallas, but going to win one in Seattle. Wasn't going to happen. Miss me with that. D-Law disagree. I think he took a shot at the office because he was salty. He didn't even make him an offer. Now, 808. You just gave the answer. He never took a shot at Micah Parsons. That shot, 808 Cowboy, was at the front office, and I said it in the video I made. You hit it. Hey, DeMarcus Lawrence, you were a part of that problem too. I blame Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence for not working together. I blame both of them for not being men. I blame both of them. This is a team sport. I blame both of them. But the comment that DeMarcus Lawrence made was not at Micah Parsons. That comment was strictly at the front office. It was. And let's not be naive. Was he mad they didn't make him an offer? How do we know he was mad? I'm not sure he wanted to play for the Cowboys anymore. I'm just not sure he wanted to play for them. But I'm pretty sure it did, 808. It probably messed with his ego some that they didn't offer him something. But them not offering him, that was not a shot at Micah Parsons. But anyone who's noticed in the media, Micah Parsons has been quick to take up for Jerry Jones. And DeMarcus Lawrence should have been a little bit more emotionally intelligent. It wasn't going to set right with the team because the team is probably looking at it as you're saying that we can't because we're not good enough. I just don't think that's what he was saying. Because if he was saying that, then he is indicting himself. But that's the very reason why I don't think he was saying that. I don't think he was indicting himself or the players that have been on that team. He's talking about the people, 808, who didn't make him the offer. That's who he's talking about, the front office. And because Micah Parsons, first dog bark. Well, Micah Parsons steps up and says something. So guess what? DeMarcus Lawrence, because he's already know they've had some friction. Hey, man, you going to step out and try to say something that I'm envious of you? Well, DeMarcus Lawrence stepped out and said, boom, you going to say that? Take this. And that's what we saw spilled over. But if I would have been Micah Parsons, I wouldn't have said a word. Because I actually wouldn't have took that as him taking a shot at me. I just wouldn't have took that as a shot because DeMarcus Lawrence has not been here for 30 years. And he's not the problem. Was he a part of a problem? Yes, he's not the problem. Nisi said Jerry has 3 Super Bowls and is in the Hall of Fame. He has accomplished all in football. That's one reason why the Cowboys are all about marketing. Exactly. And he's put this mentality in this team that they have. He's responsible for it. I bet. Hey, Ice Cold, he said, I bet Dak be talking in the locker room. I bet he does too. I'm just telling us that some of this people have taken sides on. It's not a side thing. I think what they're saying is legitimate that there are people on this team, they don't like the way Micah Parsons does things. And I think what they're saying, guys, without saying it, I think they're saying they don't believe he's a team player. I mean, we're really going the long way around this. I think they're saying he's not a team player. I do.
Micah is open to doing that, but the team is going to address it with him in contract talk. Now, there's something they can't put in writing because that's against the CBA. However, I think it's going to be suggested, hey, man, get your behind in here when we open up the doors officially.
Calvin.
Now, let me show you why I know the Cowboys are not being hypocritical on this. Some people may say the Cowboys are being hypocritical on this, but I'm going to tell you this is not true. Now, some of us deep Cowboy fans are going to know exactly what I'm talking about. They had the same problem with Tony Romo. Somebody said, well, Tony Romo didn't have a podcast. No, he had something worse. We do know what Tony Romo used to do in the offseason, right? Tony Romo is a great golf player. Tony Romo is a great golf player. And Tony Romo in the offseason would not be doing football stuff. Tony Romo in the offseason was playing golf. And you know what's kind of strange to me? Tony Romo started having some of these back issues. You want to know what happens with swinging those clubs? Back issues. No one ever related the two, but I'm just telling you. Tony Romo would get the same type of rap. People would always say, Tony Romo is not focused on football. Does anybody remember that? Do y'all remember they would get on to Tony Romo about wearing his hat backwards? What did Tony Romo start doing when he signed that last big contract? He started turning his hat around straight. Tony Romo started talking different. Tony Romo took a break from playing golf in the offseason. Tony Romo changed the way he did some things because contrary to what people believe, this is about Micah Parsons. He's not the first one that has gotten this treatment. They did it to Tony Romo. They complained about Tony Romo playing golf, Tony Romo with the hat backwards, Tony Romo not being focused enough on football. They were saying some of these same similar things about Tony Romo and saying this is one of the reasons why the Cowboys couldn't win with Tony Romo. I'm just saying. And you can't tell a player, listen to what Calvin Watkins said. You can't tell him to be here doing voluntary. But you're going to have the conversation with him and say, hey, man, we know it's voluntary, but you're supposed to be a leader. And we expect the leaders, and you got to use the language very carefully. But you're a leader. Yeah, we don't want you to make the argument that it's voluntary. We know it's voluntary. You know why it's voluntary? We want you to volunteer. Hey, Michael, it would go a long way if you would show up doing voluntary workouts. You can start getting the game. You can start getting defense, understanding the defense. You could lead the young guys, blah, blah, blase, blase. I'm telling you, this is exactly what Calvin Watkins is talking about. They want to have a conversation about the football stuff. They did the same. Y'all might think this is exclusive to Micah Parsons. It's not. Nope, they did the same thing to Tony Romo. They did the exact same thing to Tony Romo. Because that joker loved playing golf. And as a matter of fact, I think they were even talking about this with his gig he got now. This joker was trying to play. They were complaining about Tony Romo, saying he wasn't spending enough time studying football anymore because fans were complaining that when at first Tony Romo was making all these great predictions and what was going to happen on the field, guess what they're saying now? He's an annoyance. He's an annoyance. He's always bragging about Josh Allen and always and some of the things he's saying are flat out wrong. They were saying these things about Tony Romo. Guess what they're telling him again? Hey, man, get your head back in the books. It's not the first time that someone has said this about a Dallas Cowboy.
You've been doing this for a long time. You've covered a lot of players and teams. How big of an issue do you think the podcast thing is, and why would it be one? Is it a distraction? Do you think Micah is taken away from his actual football by doing this? Is how big of a deal is it?
I would say it's not a big deal because you can do whatever you want on your off day, right? You know, you could go drinking all day on Tuesdays, which is the player's off day, and then as long as you come in on time on Wednesday morning and you're prepared to play, what's the big deal? However, there's this, as I think all of us know, sometimes perception is reality. The optics doesn't look good. So sometimes you got to say, you know what? I'm not going to do this because there's a perception that it could be a problem. And some of my teammates think this is a problem, so I'm not going to do it. Paul George, who plays for the Sixers, He did an in-season podcast, and he said, you know what, I'm not going to do it anymore because now people are talking about this instead of the main thing. That's basketball. So he stopped doing it. Now everyone's different. The old school in me says, don't do it.
Yeah.
Get ready to play football every week. On Tuesdays, go bowling. Tuesdays, take your girl out. You know, do something, but stop talking about the NFL on Tuesdays. So everyone's got their own way of doing things.
Now, this is something that I had to learn when I was younger. Perception. I was telling my wife this a few days ago. The one thing we have to learn, we can tell people what we meant, but we don't get to dictate how they take it. You ever said something to somebody in a certain, you say something to somebody, and you don't mean anything by it. You don't mean any harm by it. You're not trying to, you're actually not even trying to be antagonistic. You say something. Well, they take it in an offensive manner. And they may have taken it in an offensive manner by the way you said it, the face you made when you said it, or social media is one of the worst. We're typing behind the keyboard. We're trying to use emojis. We're trying to use quotations. We're trying to use caps. We're trying to use GIFs. We're trying to use different ways of communicating the mood of how we're typing so someone doesn't take something in an offensive manner. And even in doing all that, we still do not get to dictate how someone perceives something. And so sometimes something may take a little bit more explanation. And there are other times, there are things, again, I'm going to use the Tony Romo example. The Cowboys got beat by the New York Giants when the Cowboys, I think, were the number 1 seed. The perception is, even if it isn't true, not serious enough about football. You took a vacation before a game or you went, all of those things may have nothing to do, we think, with it. But at the same time, there are people who look at those things and go, if you hadn't have done that, this wouldn't have happened. Have you ever said that about somebody? Oh, had we not been doing this, or had he not been doing this, he'd have been more focused on playing. How do we know he wasn't focused on playing? And while I may say, hey, man, I was dead, I was focused, that's not the perception. And perception becomes reality for people. Now, let me close this saying out with what it means with perception is reality. So if I'm on a team, if I'm a one-man band, there are just going to be some people that are not going to like some things I'm going to say. But if I'm on a team, my goal is to make sure that everything they perceive is right. That's my goal. And if they're telling me that there's something that's a distraction that I don't think should be a distraction, well, I have to understand, well, maybe it is a distraction because they're telling me, because they're speaking out. And does this thing that they're saying is a distraction? What does it do to me if I stop it? What does it do to me? How does it take away from me? And if it's something that doesn't take away from me to where I can't fully be what the team wants me to be, if it's something that takes away from me, then I have to explain that I can't stop it. But if it's something that I can stop easily, and it's going to really put the team in a whole different mood and also give that team more confidence in me, then I'm willing to give that thing up for the team. I'm going to give it up for the team. I am. You ever heard someone say, take one for the team? Duh. I'm going to give something up for the team. I mean, how much could the Bleacher Report be paying Micah Parsons? How much? I guarantee you Micah Parsons is doing that because he likes it. Jerry could easily say, hey, whatever they're paying you, we'll just pay you that and just be done with the podcast. Even though I don't think that would even be Jerry's problem. I just think some of the things he's saying in the podcast is what the problem is for many. I think what he's saying is the problem for some, and then some are just saying, man, I just don't even want you to do it. I just want you to be focused on what we're doing. I'm just telling us, Calvin Watkins' perception is reality, whether we like it or not.
Calvin Watkins, Dallas Morning News here on The Fan.
So is it the time he is spending on the podcast or the fact that he's talking about other teams, other players, and this team? Because, like, to me, if you're spending 2 hours on the podcast or you're going bowling for 2 hours, there's no difference in that. The only difference is that one is public and then the other one you can kind of hide away from.
I think it's a little bit of both. But mainly you're doing a podcast and you're talking about other teams. If you guys remember, he would come on Skip Bayless's show when it was on FS1, and then Skip criticized Dak.
Yeah.
And then there was a big hype about, oh my goodness, here comes Micah, and then Micah canceled.
Yeah.
Right? Because he knew, hey, I'm getting paid by Fox, and now I'm gonna get into it with Skip defending Dak. And that would become a bigger story, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't do it. So that's an example of why you don't do these things, because things happen. You know, your quarterback throws 4 interceptions, and you got this podcast. People want to know what you think about it. You know, it's one thing after a game because that's part of the job. It's another thing to say, I'm going to continue to talk about this thing on Tuesday. So I think it's a little bit of both, as I said. And the Cowboys really can't control it in a sense, but maybe they can.
Calvin.
Now, let me tell you something that people do not understand. Words hurt. The words you say and the words you don't say, they hurt. And I don't care what anyone says. You know what? You're a different type of person. I'm one of these people. I'll be honest with you. I'm a little bit different like this. I mean, people will tell you this about me sometimes. People can say things to me and it don't even bother me. People can say things to me that they would say to other people and it would bother them. They don't bother me. But you know what? Everybody's not me. And I have to understand that everybody's not me. And this is why when we talk about words, I don't think we understand. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words never hurt. That's a lie. Words hurt worse than sticks and stones. You can get your bones broken, they'll heal, and you'll just, you know what, you go on about your business and never even hardly think about it. There are people today that they're not talking right now because of words. Words. Something someone says and people still not talking today, not coming to Thanksgiving dinner, not showing up for Christmas, haven't seen family members in 10, 15 years. Words. You have to choose those very carefully. What you say and what you don't say, what you imply, you have to be very careful. I can't tell you how many videos I've done where there are things that I said in those videos. I cut those things out. I cut those things out. I don't ever want to be a person that's going back and forth with other content creators, disparaging other content creators, competing with content creators. I think we're all trying to tell the same story and I think we're all trying to tell the truth. I think we're all giving some valuable information. So I try to be careful. Because I did make a mistake early on where I said something that, okay, I wasn't saying it like that. But, you know, once a person receives it a certain way, sometimes you can't even explain how you meant it. Because it doesn't sound genuine to a person. This is the danger sometimes of saying things that we shouldn't say, or even a lack of saying things. So we have to be very careful what we say, because I'm telling you, and the moment that D-Law told Micah Parsons to shut the F up, I'm sorry, man, when you tell a grown man shut the F up, when another man tell a man to shut, you don't look at him the same no more. There are things that you say to men, and we don't look at you the same no more. We don't look at you the same. And so this becomes the issue. D-Law, stuff that he said, things that Micah Parsons has said on his own podcast. I'm just telling you how men don't look at things the same no more once you say certain things. And I'm sure women don't either, depending upon who the person is. I'm just telling us. It's not the podcast per se that's the problem. It's the content of the podcast. That's the problem.
And how would you describe Micah Parsons' personality and leadership in the locker room and the Cowboys' satisfaction level with it, if you had to guess?
Now, y'all listen to this. This is the question I'm probably going to close on. I'm probably going to have to come back tonight at the Cowboys After Dark. I want you to listen to this question again and listen to Calvin Watkins' answer.
Yeah, people want to know what you think about it. You know, it's one thing after a game because that's so.
Calvin, how would you describe Micah Parsons' personality and leadership in the locker room and the Cowboys' satisfaction level with it, if you had to guess?
Mike is a good guy. He's a good dude. He's a young guy. You know, he's got money, you know, and, you know, when you get money for the first time, you want to, you know, spend it a little bit. It's okay. It's natural.
Yeah.
But he leads in a different way, right? He would say, hey, we're going to be in Oxnard, California for 24 days, so I'll bomb my guys then, and that's where I'll show my leadership. Others will say leadership starts when the captain's workouts start in the spring.
You see the issue? Calvin Watkins is saying something, guys. Let me tell you something. If someone asks, are you a leader? And they don't begin the answer with, yes, you're not a leader. When someone says you lead differently, do you know what they're saying? You're not a leader. If I have to explain how you lead, you're not a leader. You're not. You're just not, and that's that is the cold-hearted facts. Strange to me because no one ever says this about Dak Prescott. The one thing they're going to tell you about Dak Prescott, he's a great leader. Everyone's going to tell you that, even Colin Cowherd. Colin Cowherd will tell you that Dak Prescott is the exact kind of quarterback that you want to be the lead of your franchise, and especially the Dallas Cowboys. That's Colin Cowherd saying that. But if someone is asking, are you a leader? And these are the answers. This is a long way around of saying you're not the leader. And you may be a leader in your own right, as in maybe a few. But the reality is you are not a leader. And again, you notice what he says? Being a leader starts in spring training. Being a leader is not what you say, it's what you do. How many times have I been saying this? If you have to tell me you're the leader, you're not the leader. If you have to tell us things like, yeah, it's my time, you're not a leader. You're wanting to be recognized and acknowledged as a leader, but you haven't did what is required where everyone else says unequivocally, you're the leader.
And Zach Martin, who recently retired, mentioned that. One of the things they didn't mention in the story that we wrote was when Zach Martin, who's probably going to the Hall of Fame, one of the most decorated offensive linemen in the history of the Cowboys, didn't mention Micah Parsons in his speech.
Tell me anything you want to. Tell me anything you want to. This part right here, let me tell y'all something. This part right here got to me. This part right here got to me. I don't know if y'all knew this, but Zach Martin did not mention Micah Parsons in his speech. This got to me. You're telling me that Zach Martin, leader on this team, doesn't acknowledge you in his speech, nor as a leader? Zach Martin played with Tony Romo. You know who Zach Martin called his quarterback? Dak Prescott. Zach Martin called Dak Prescott his quarterback. Well, he played with Tony Romo too. Y'all remember who went and stepped to CeeDee Lamb this past season with Dak Prescott? Zach Martin. He didn't even mention Micah Parsons in the speech. But that's not the crazy part. Listen to this.
You know, Micah Parsons was not there. You know, a lot of players were there, including DeMarcus Lawrence.
So hold on a second. Wait a minute. Hold on a second. So you want to be a leader on this team. Zach Martin gives his farewell press conference. And there are Dallas Cowboys that are there. And you don't show up? I don't, you know what? Again, watch this. You want to know what a leader looks like and what a leader doesn't look like? A leader looks like someone who would show up to the press conference of one Zach Martin. Someone who's talking about being a leader, but who is actually not a leader, does not show up to the Zach Martin press conference. This is insane. Y'all can tell me anything you want to. You can have your own opinion. I'm not gonna criticize you for it. But I'm telling you this. All-time greats on your team don't retire and you don't be there. Not all-time greats. Not all-time greats. It's not like this was your first year. You really didn't know Zach Martin, so you don't show up. No, you've been on the team with him. What, 4 years? You're the very one who was talking at a press conference. I feel sorry for guys like Zach Martin. He's not going to get a Super Bowl. But you don't show up to the press conference? Equally as insane to me. How does Micah Parsons be a leader on the defense? How does he be a staple in the franchise? Because he is. And Zach Martin don't mention his name? That's strange to me. Because if I think of the big three on the Cowboys, Dak, CeeDee, Micah, Zach Martin doesn't mention Micah Parsons. Why not?
Right? I'm not saying that this is something going on with Zach and Micah. I'm not saying that at all. But when here's one of the most decorated players in the history of the game, he has like these 3 pages of copy written out about his retirement, so meticulous, he doesn't even have your name in there. And he mentions a lot of players.
Yeah.
That says something. That was eye-opening to me. I was like, he didn't mention Micah. Mentioned Dak, mentioned CD, didn't mention Micah, right? Mm-hmm. So it was interesting. But I think some of these things can be worked out. I don't think it's the end of the world type of thing. I mean, look, I covered Terrell Owens when he was here, right? I covered Des Bryant, So there have been other guys who've been a little more combustible than Micah. Jay Ratliff, all these guys. They're good guys. They're just a little combustible. So, but it can be worked out, I believe.
Guys, you can tell me anything you want to. This part of the story is crazy to me. Zach Martin. Understand something, guys. You're supposed to be Micah bleeping Parsons. And Zach Martin doesn't mention you? Hey man, we're gonna be back for Cowboys After Dark tonight. We're gonna do the second part to this. This is crazy to me. We're gonna be back tonight. I gotta finish this tonight. This interview with Calvin Watkins, I just can't believe more people aren't talking about it. This is incredible to me. This is incredible. That Zach Martin thing, guys, it got to me. It did. It got to me. He mentioned Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. Doesn't mention Micah Parsons. DeMarcus Lawrence is there. Micah Parsons isn't there. Someone says maybe he had something to do. No, no. If Zach Martin's going to give his farewell press conference and I'm on the team and I'm a leader on this team, book it. Book it. I'm calling the person who is over my schedule. You know what I'm telling them? We're going to have to reschedule. No, I'm not missing Zach Martin's press conference. I'm not missing Zach Martin's farewell press conference. I'm not doing it. Nothing short of a death in my family. I'm not missing it unless there's a death in my family. And if the funeral is early, I'm going to the funeral. I'm going to kiss my family, and I'm going to tell them I got to go take care of some other business, and I'll be back. But I'm going to Zach. Man, I'm telling you, this is a megaton bomb to me. And again, y'all may not realize, but Calvin Watkins is telling us something about Micah Parsons that many of us don't want to admit. Just think he's saying something. He's not a team player. It's not that he doesn't play great on the field. These are two different things. They're questioning, is he a team player? Is he a team player? They're just going the long way around saying it. There's no other way to. They're questioning whether or not he's a team player. I'm telling you guys, this is crazy. We'll be back tonight for Cowboys After Dark, and we're going to discuss the rest of this. It's more to it. It's more to it. You can find it on 105.3 The Fan if you want to go back and look at it for yourself, and we can really get into it tonight. But I'm telling you guys, some great stuff in this interview. It's not that long. It's just some bombshells in this thing. All right, guys. Hey, I got to go serve the Lord. I appreciate y'all rocking with me. I'll check you out again tonight, Cowboys After Dark. I'll let you know the time. Appreciate you rocking with me. Until the next time, let's talk Cowboys, where we talk facts. Peace.